Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is our presentation on email alerts in SharePoint. We're going to talk about updates to that in the SharePoint environment, and we're going to talk about some options that you have to be able to easily manage and do email alerts inside of your environment. So we're going to jump right into it. Give me 1 second just to make sure I've got my meeting settings right. Looks like I'm good. My name's Will Cooper. I'm a SharePoint solutions developer, and I do anything and everything related to SharePoint. I do a lot with Infowise Ultimate Forms. I also have my own SharePoint tool set, which is called SharePoint Dashboards. I have a YouTube channel, which I hope you'll check out. That's called SharePoint Smart. You can search for that and take a look. I post all kinds of training videos and informational videos about SharePoint there. Our team in Infowise, our philosophy is about making things simple. We want it to be easy to use SharePoint, easy to do everything that you want to do, and we're also continuously improving our product. Ultimate Forms is a full solution toolkit. It deploys 100% inside of your SharePoint environment. And a major aspect of Ultimate Forms is you don't have to do any coding. So it's geared for people who are not developers. I am recording the presentation. I'll post it out to YouTube later today. Also, the template that I show you today will be available for free download. So everything you see me doing in the example form and setup, you can try it out for yourself after our presentation. If you have any questions or comments, we definitely want to hear those. And the way you can do that is through the Q&A section in the Teams meeting. You can just post your questions there. It may take me a little bit to get to you, but I promise I will get to all those questions before the end of the presentation. Our toolkit is available both for SharePoint Online and also for on-premise SharePoint. So regardless of which SharePoint version you're using, you can use our toolset. And now we're going to get right into it. So let's begin by talking about some updates that came from Microsoft recently, and that is the retirement of SharePoint email alerts. And I want to talk about what's going on so you have clear information and you know what's happening so you can be prepared to deal with that with your own colleagues and in your own organization. So here we are right now, July 2025, and they're beginning the process of removing this functionality. This is especially going to affect most customers beginning in the September and October timeframe. At that point, it will no longer be possible for users to create SharePoint alerts as they have existed to this point in your tenants, and the existing alerts are going to go into a mode where they become automatically deactivated. And then this functionality will be entirely removed from SharePoint by the middle of next year. And what we're talking about is in the SharePoint lists and libraries, you have this option in the command bar. It says alert me or manage my alerts. That's going to be gone. This is what that old interface looked like. That will be removed. And let's talk about what you have available to you inside of SharePoint. There's another function referred to as email rules. It's driven through Power Automate. And it can do some similar things to the functionality that was there previous. And this includes, just being able to do basic email triggers for when items are added or modified. So there's still some basic functionality that's there. Being able to do daily and weekly summaries will be no longer possible through the SharePoint interface. This is the out-of-the-box SharePoint functionality we're talking about. This is the rules function that I'm referring to. It's under the automate menu, and this is what you would have to use if you're trying to do something through SharePoint. It's very basic, just allows for very simple scenarios. It's not managed on a administrative level. It's just a simple tool that users can tap into to get basic notifications. It's very limited, can't really do any customization, and it will just automatically send you a notification letting you know, as an example, when something was added or updated. That's pretty much all there is to it if you're trying to use what's in SharePoint. Another possibility is Power Automate, and that's part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And That's something very geared towards developers. So you can create email notification rules in here, but in many cases it involves coding. You may need to include HTML or CSS. There's advanced configuration settings. Usually this is going to be the domain of your SharePoint developer or administrator. Additionally, it's very cumbersome. It's time consuming to set these up. It's not a fast and fluid email rule interface. Now coming to what we're going to talk about in our presentation today, which is what Infowise offers in Ultimate Forms. Our toolkit is a comprehensive SharePoint solution toolkit. It allows you to do custom forms and email rules. We're focusing in the presentation today on email rules. On this page, you can see a list of all the features and functions. As you can tell, it is comprehensive. Really anything you can imagine as it relates to being able to send email notifications and have automation set up with that, it's all included as part of this tool set. All right, so we're going to jump to that. Here I am in SharePoint Online, and we're going to look at some examples and see a little bit how this can work. To demonstrate some of this functionality, what I've done is created a SharePoint list, which has the purpose of letting users submit expenditure approval requests. Just to get the ball rolling, I'm just going to go ahead and add a new one just to set the stage so we can have a use case example to think about where these email notifications are going to be important. And again, if you have any questions or comments, just go ahead and post those to the Q&A section in our Teams webinar, and I promise I will get to those before the end of the session. All right, so let's say I need to buy, I don't know, let's say we need printer cartridges. And so I'm just putting in a request to my organization. I need to go buy some printer cartridges. All right, it's defaulting in. My name is the requester. I just enter the amount of, what that's going to cost. And then it automatically defaults in the request date. I just need to indicate when I need that by. I'll say I want to be able to buy those by tomorrow. Then I've got some categories. So this form is a custom form built using Ultimate Forms. And as you can tell, this looks quite different than anything you would be able to do in out-of-the-box SharePoint. And naturally, this is a part of our toolkit. This is included along with the email tools, which we're going to focus on today. All right, we'll say I'm going to Office Depot, and then I need to pick a priority. Say that's a high priority, and then we just need to have the name of the approver. That's it. That's everything I need to do to submit the request. I can attach a document or quote or something like that if I want to. So there we go. I went ahead and submitted my request for printer cartridges. There it is. It's on the 4th line. See the request date, when it's needed, kind of have some visualization in the dashboard to make things look nice. So at this stage, it's going to go ahead and send out email notifications to me. And the next thing I want to do is kind of take a look at some of the kinds of email notifications that the system can send out. And then we're going to illustrate how that's going to work. All right, so here's the example actual emails that were sent out as a part of this system and as a part of some other things, just to kind of think about the situations that might come up. So here's an example of an email when an item's added to a SharePoint list. So what we've got going on here is we've got a link directly to the list from SharePoint. It's got a summary of data from the form, and this is just an example of how you could do your notification. You can customize the list, the email to include content however you want. One key aspect of this is being able to link directly back to the form. So you for sure want to do that. Then also be able to format it. You can see there's some bold information. We want to refer to dynamic information coming directly from the form. Really want to just get that important data out there, let the user know what happened, what they need to click. Here's another notification for when the expenditure was approved. Here's another type of notification where we can actually put approval buttons directly in the email. So that's part of our system. In this case, we're allowing them to click directly in the email to approve or decline. This is an example of a type of email notification where you can have it in a summary mode. So I know if you guys are anything like me, I get lots and lots and lots of emails. So instead of getting bombed in my inbox with a whole bunch of things, maybe I want to just a summary of everything that happened within the last day or whatever time frame I choose. Maybe I want a weekly summary. It can consolidate all those into a single email if you want. And that's what you see in this example. This is an example of a support ticket system. Somebody made a request. So I've got the hyperlink that the user put in there to refer to the area in SharePoint where they need help. And then I've got their notes that's highlighted in the ticket. And then there's a link directly back to the item. So this is a typical kind of notification I want to set up. Another type of possibility, I might want PDF output. And that's something also that our system can do. If you want to have a custom print template where it'll create a PDF out of your SharePoint data and automatically send that by way of email, that can be done as well. So here's that same list. You can see I've got a nice logo on the top of it. And then also I've got my summary information. This is an actual PDF that's sent out and attached to the email. This is all automated. Okay, so those are examples of kind of emails that we want to go out. So how do we manage those email rules using our system? As I mentioned, those options are going to go away in terms of what Microsoft provides, and also they're extremely simple and limited. In our system, when you install the tool, all the users can use the alert functionality to go directly to email alert management in their SharePoint list. They can either add a new alert or they can manage existing alerts. As an administrator, you have complete control over this functionality. You can decide what your users can do. So it's it can be controlled where you just have, for example, your admin level users doing it. Another way to get to that is through our settings, and you just go to the business logic and alerts, and you can manage all of the information for your list. So this is for this specific list, and we're going to walk through some examples of those rules. I'm going to talk to you about the functionality and how easy it is to set this up. So I'll start with the most basic one. When I get a new request, I want to go ahead and send out an email. So I just give it a title. My list is called expenditure requests, and this trigger is when there's new. And I just work my way from left to right through the tabs. It's very simple to understand. Now for the recipients, it has a lot of options available to me. So I can either explicitly pick people in SharePoint, as I did here. You can just type out the name. It's going to find people in your SharePoint environment. I could just click on Add Current User. I can have it go to people that are in the list. So if I have an email that needs to go to the approver, I can just click on that and it'll go to whoever's in that person field. Another option, you can go ahead and have it email people outside of your organization. I could just type an email address to somebody at a business outside my organization, like this, and I can add emails that way. So pretty much any way you want to do your recipients, you can do that. Another thing that's really important is being able to control the sender. You can send from any user account in your tenant. And for many customers that I work with, they'll establish a no reply email account. And that way you can have a system account sending out the email notifications so that people understand that it's a system generated email. So that is absolutely custom configurable. If you need to put exceptions in there, you can do that. We've got that never send to option. And there is just a lot of options to it. So the basic use of this system is very easy to understand, but there's a huge amount of depth. So if you have more complicated scenarios that come up, it's very easy to set that up. This is probably the easiest of all scenarios. You just check the box, when an item's added, I want the email to go out. By default, that's just going to go out immediately, but there's other configuration you can do as well. And we'll come to that in a second. And then the email content. This is a rich text editor field. And the idea is that you have static content and you have dynamic content. So in the context of our form, we have things like the fields, which we want to insert into there. And what you can see is those are inserted in square brackets. I don't have to remember those things. I can just click on Add Column. If I scroll through my list, I can find all those fields here, and you can see when I click on that, it just adds that in there, and that dynamic information will be automatically inserted. So I can do that both for the subject line, and then also I can do that for the body of the email. And clearly I can just make this look however I want. So I can control the font, I can insert images, I can style this, I can put it in a table, I can do anything that I want in here. You can actually even use a AI function to rewrite the content for you. Naturally, we're using tools like that more and more. That's optional. You don't have to do that, but that function's available if you want it. It's down here. I can set the importance just like sending regular emails. And then there's additional options as well. One of the emails you saw, it was automatically showing column output. Maybe you want to just see columns that have been updated. You can do that using the include updated columns option. So just very flexible in terms of defining the content of the email. That's all there is to it. Once you define that rule, it's going to automatically run every time those records are created or updated in SharePoint. It's going to go ahead and detect that for you. So that was just an example of a new item. I'll show you a very similar one, which is sending the email defining what changed. And in that case, you can just check the boxes. So in this case, you can see for that rule, I use the include updated columns, highlight updated columns. That would probably be useful for an on-modify event. Maybe every time a record gets modified, I want to be able to go ahead and see those changes. All right, let's talk about a summary mode. That was an example that I showed. It could be that you don't want to get lots and lots of emails, but you still want to be aware of what's going on. So you just want to get a summary email at a specific time once a day or once a week, that type of thing. The way that's configured in our system, on the what to send tab, you'll still have add, but you can set it to go out instead of immediately. You can do daily, and then you can select this option to send these as a chain within one email. I can even define which days of the week. Of course, I'm not going to be checking those on the weekend. I want to relax, but I can make it go out at a set time. So in this case, I've set that summary to go out each weekday at 11 a.m. specifically. That's going to cut down on all that email clutter. Still the same thing for the content. I can include anything I want in there. So that's a summary mode style email. Maybe I want to check for a certain change. So a very typical situation is you just want to know when the status has changed. Maybe there's lots of updates happening on a record, but really you're just interested in when it changed to approved, that type of thing. So I can listen for a specific change to the form like that very easily. If I go to the what to send, I can select modified and then set an additional condition. In this case, I'm saying, send me an email when the approval after change updates to a new approval status. And it will only send in that case. So in other words, if anything else is changing the form but the approval is not changing, it would ignore this. So you can be very targeted. So you can see in this email, it says that the request for the expenditure was approved, has been updated to approved. So we have an easy way to catch that specific condition. Okay, also we think about deadlines a lot of times. If it's an approval situation, we want to know if something has stalled. And maybe we want a nag email or something to remind people when something that was supposed to take place didn't happen. That's also easy to do. I'll show you how to set that up. On the what to send, we do have this option according to date. So in my request, we have the request date, which is the date that it's submitted. And what I did here is I said, go ahead and send this one day after the request date in the condition that approval is requested. In other words, it was not set to approved or declined yet. I don't want to nag somebody if they already did it, so I need to make sure that exception is included. So in other words, any requests that happen, if they have not been requested within a day, go ahead and send that follow-up email. And I want it to keep doing it. So that's why we have the repeat every one day up to 10 times. So this is very cool. I don't have to do any fancy programming. It just automatically will do this according to my specifications. Once I've got this set up, it'll do it for any of these requests. And then naturally I'm going to have a email content that is tailored towards that situation. So I can say, reminder, this person requested this on this date, please go into SharePoint and make that update. So it'll keep following up with them. That would be a reminder email situation. Another one I showed you was approval buttons directly in the email. That's pretty cool. I'll show you how that was set up. Now that's an alternative path. In this case, it was on ad. I want to send that out. And I'll show you how the approval buttons work. Basically, I can go ahead and within here, I can click on an option to create a button. So in the columns interface, we have a buttons option. I can add a button, and I just link it to a custom action that I've defined. And it will run that action, so I can tie that to an approval situation. Another thing I did was send out an email. We have custom print templates as a part of our system, so you can easily define a print template from your list. I've done that for this expenditure request. I just listed out the fields that I want to show up in that. Also, additional to that, I said I want to put a logo in the header. And once I've defined that print template, I can print from my list. But in our situation, I want to do that automatically through an email. In order to set that up, I just created this special functionality to email a PDF summary. It's this print list items action. I'm able to define the name of the file, and this is something I want the user to be able to trigger through the interface. So I can define the email body and subject line, and that auto-generates that email. So if I come back to the form, I just tied it directly to the form. This is the form designer tool. This is a drag and drop style interface, and I can easily make this look however I want. I can control the look and feel however I want. I can put a background color in a section, for example, very easily, and what you see is what you get. At the bottom of this form, I added this function, email PDF summary. And what I wanted is for the user to be able to click into this, enter an email, and just click the button, and it will just shoot out a PDF to them anytime. So the way that looks in here is I can go into the form, and I can type an email address in this box right here, and then just click on the email PDF summary. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that right now. And I just click that box, and then it gives me a little dialog. It's actually creating the PDF and also sending that through email. So you can see how that would be handy. Maybe I want a system to be able to send a quote out to a customer, and how nice is it to just be able to click in the form and have it run through this process and automatically go through these steps for you. So while that's percolating, there it goes. We can look at some more information. So on this dashboard, I do have some visual indicators just to kind of make things stand out. Of course, if it's a critical priority, I want to be able to see that. And then also I want to be able to easily see when things are approved or not. The approval process is simple in my form. They just have an approval date. They say, yes, that's approved. Looks good to me. And save. That's all that it takes to approve the expenditure. And on the dashboard, you can see the approval column changes color. Then we've got our dates on the right-hand side. So we just have a nice looking overview on the dashboard. All right, so inside of the Infowise site, you can learn more about the tool set. This is our alerts function. In order to find more information and read more after the presentation, you can just go to features and then just click on alerts. We've got a video loaded about that, but you can actually go into our features page if you click learn more. And if you scroll down through here, you can see some detailed summary about the features. And then there's some screenshots of some of the different functionality. One awesome thing with this tool set, you can download and trial this for free. So our entire software is available to you on the trial. You can get to that by just going to our website homepage, click try now for free, and you can install it into your environment. You do need to be a SharePoint admin in order to install the trial software. So if that's not your role, you need to contact them and ask for their help, and then you can try this out, and you can try all these email notifications for yourself inside of your own environment. And there's a lot you can do within that. All right, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and post that for me in the Q&A section in our presentation. Let me know what kinds of email roles you want to set up. Tell me how you use email notifications. Maybe describe your own situation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about that. If you want information on the pricing for our tool set, you can just go to our pricing page. It's based on the number of users, so you just need to select the number of users in your environment who will be creating email roles, and that's what the pricing would be related to. And if you do sign up, it is going to include everything within our software. It's all inclusive. So if you sign up, it won't be only the email functionality that you'd have access to. You're going to have access to our form designer tool, print templates, custom web parts, and workflow functionality in addition to the email alerts. One thing we didn't talk about, which is very important, is administration for the email alerts. So as an administrator, you can set and control a lot of options. So for example, one thing I mentioned is you may like to have the ability to control changes to the sender so that you can send from a no reply email alert. And then also as a part of this, there's logging included. So maybe you want to look or troubleshoot sending emails. You can see a log of everything going out, so you can track that and do it. You can do this across different lists or sites. There's lots of filter functionality in the logging. Generally, once you've got your general global settings set up the way that you like, you don't necessarily need to change that or add other notifications. Another nice option that is included in here is the ability to do email content templates. So if you have a style of email that you like to send out repeatedly, you can actually save that as a email content template, which you can use multiple times. So if I wanted to do that, I can just come in here to define an email content template, and I can reference to that. So I've got a lot of different templates. So for example, for a support list, that's a very common situation. Maybe I'm going to do that at multiple SharePoint sites. You can easily access that there. Okay, so that is the main information on that. As I say, if you do the trial, you can actually set up your own email notifications and see how this would work. And then we do have extensive documentation that's baked into the interface. So if I'm going into an email notification role, I can always click to jump to that part of the documentation. It is quite extensive, and there are a lot of possibilities. So pretty much any type of situation that you can think of or want to do as it relates to notification roles on your SharePoint lists, you definitely will be able to do it through this. But it's something that's going to be a lot more fast and fluid compared to having to go over to another tool to define those roles, like Power Automate. And also you can manage that all from one interface. You can manage all your email alert roles from here. Does anyone have any questions? I see a hand. If you have a question, you can just type that into the Q&A interface. I see Mike's got a question. All right. Another thing that was part of this tool that I showed presentation was some of these dashboard indicators, the formatting, the edit and view buttons, that type of thing. And then we have indicators like the icons for the categories, the dates, and that type of thing. The other site that I work with and run is the SharePoint dashboard site. And this is a site where you can set up indicators on dashboards that helps you see things that are overdue, or you want to make the status jump out, use different icons, or if you want to do custom charting and that type of thing. This site does include a lot of templates. In fact, as of right now, there's 237 different templates, and you can do things like add custom buttons, or as they say, you can do charting, any kind of visualization you want to do inside of your SharePoint list, you can do that through this. So this is something you can try out for free. This does include 21 free templates. All you got to do is give your name and email, and they can help you with that. All right, that is the end of our main presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording, but I will stay on to answer questions for anybody who has them. I really appreciate you guys coming for our presentation today.